Hey everybody! What a fun movie, right?
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So we were talking in the previous Q&A about how you saw these kind of action films that are referenced in the movie growing up, and they were really pervasive. That you could even see them on the bus, etc. So it sort of got right into the culture. What do you think were the? How do you think they reflect and influence Filipino culture in both good and bad ways?
I'm not exactly sure how they reflect Filipino culture, but what I can say is that it has an effect in how we see action heroes as real people when we look at our politics, perhaps.
Sure.
So, growing up, our president was a former action star. And in our latest elections, we have a lot of celebrities who recently are in position right now. So I guess it says a lot about how we feel like we're people who need to be saved by a hero, and maybe that's why our fascination to action films are like that.
Wow. Do you think it makes you more proactive in general because you want to take action?
Well, I hope so in the right way or in the good way.
So one thing that struck me is there's really basically two images of women in this film. There's Leonor, who's the great Lola, the grandma, and she's really has agency and takes charge. And then there's the archetype in the action film, Isabella, and she is kind of a damsel in distress, but she still has a moral compass. She still has her own thoughts. Can you talk about how that developed? Or I know it's just organic, but
Mm. Yeah, we talked about how most parts of the film are organic and intuitive, even the establishment of the different worlds, and how I wrote the script was really based on how I just think of scenes randomly. But the character of Leonor, I think I just wanted to have a woman in a macho genre.
sure.
I wanted to see how problems are solved in a different light, because in these action films from the 70s and 80s, you would just see them solving problems through killing people and bloodshed and just finishing all the people alive around. So I wanted Leonor to be that person who encourages communication and love and care to her fellow humans. And so it's also her rethinking about these violent characters she made many years ago.
Well, I'm glad you left some of the bloodshed in because that's really entertaining. So, it is getting late, so I'm going to throw the questions to y'all in a second. But we were talking earlier about the great visual motifs and themes you had. I talked about the TV being a visual motif. It hits on the head and starts an incident, but it's also a theme. What were some of your favorite ideas that came to fruition in your script, visual ideas or otherwise, that you're really proud of?
I'm not sure if I'm proud of anything, but my
Should be.
favorite scenes, it's easily the brain scan scene, which
Okay.
was the last scene added to the film. So for a year, we tried different ways on how to visualize or how to create the image I saw in my head, and we failed many times until I met this artist who would make images out of different images. So she would collect images from the internet and put it into this like style gun thing, which generates an image from those images. So from the brain scan, for the brain scan scene, it's around 500 pictures of random brain scans from strangers from the internet, which she processed into a video. And so when I saw it, it's exactly how I wanted it to be. I just wanted the idea of having brains of people you don't know be combined into one moving image. And I also like how in brain scans you see how a person responds even if the person's not actually moving.
Where did you get this or affinity for, or this obsession with maybe brain scans and brains?
Probably I saw an image of it
Oh.
on Google, and I saw it in different colors, and I was fascinated with how colorful the image was. So anyway, to add to your question, I also remember the snail scene.
Wow.
I would often dream of snails, And there would be days when I would ask people around what would happen if one day I just woke up and I turned into a snail. And so I wanted to put that there as well.
I think we have synchronicity because I was just going to ask you the same thing. I was going to ask you how you learned to film snails so beautifully.
Oh, we didn't learn. That's what we shot, and we just had like a few living snails, and we just like tried to make it close to how I imagine it, which is a bit psychedelic somehow. And also the scene of a woman falling from the sky. It's also one of those daydreams I have. So I think there are several images in the film that are from daydreams, which I would think of first and then add to the script. Even the photocopied version of the ghost. So that started as an image. I wanted to have a photocopy of a ghost. So yeah, I turned it into an image, and now it's there.
I'm glad you asked about you had mentioned, sorry, the ghost, because when I saw the film, I thought, you know, we had talked about earlier how this film is very imbued in social realism, which is something that I think I've seen in Filipino cinemas, but it's also got magic realism. This ghost is a perfect example. And to me, the ghost, which was this longing for your dead son and so forth, linked to the nostalgia of the action films that are referenced in the film. Again, I know this is organic, but where did this interest in ghost images come from?
Well, ghosts in the Philippines are not scary beings. It's natural for us to feel the presence of a departed loved one, or to just be familiar with ghost stories and not see it as something scary. But the character of Dedron Waldo is really inspired by my grandma, whose son passed away, who is around the age of Dedron Waldo. And so I wanted that aspect to be inspired by her story. And she would tell me about one time after he passed away, she saw her bed sink as if someone was seated beside her. And when I heard it, I thought it was such a comforting moment or scene to see that your loved one is actually present. And so I tried to visualize it, and that's the scene of Leonor sitting beside Dedron Waldo.
Absolutely, I love how that it's a matter of fact. Everyone can see and talk to you.
Yeah,
The ghost, and it's very comforting indeed.
right, and I think ghosts in that sense are, I call them, when I was writing the script and I would describe it to my team, I call Dedron Waldo as the safety ghost. So he would appear when his loved ones have problems, when his loved ones are in trouble. And so yeah, he's there to give comfort.
So, going back to what I was saying about linking the ghost to the action cinema, that I don't think that exists the way you're recapturing it here, but right, but the action cinema today is taking it in Philippines. It's taken a different turn, no?
Well, I think action films are always different, and it always depends on what's happening in the time it was made. I also think that in general, not just action films, it always reflects a certain period, a certain philosophy, a certain perspective of the person and the time and the space. And so I think it's a factor that varies. So I'm not sure if I was aware of how action films reflect this side.
Okay, let's hold on. Let's see some hands. Anyone have any questions? Aha, they're in the back.
Hi. So first of all, super congratulations. This film was totally beautiful. I'm super amazed by this. I guess my question is like, what was the decision behind including yourself in like the final parts of the film?
Okay, thank you. The decision, we had to do it when we didn't have an ending. I always knew that this film was extra personal, and I always thought that at some point the production process would be revealed. And so I wrote a scene with a director and an editor talking about the film. But I wasn't supposed to play the director. But because we lacked resources, and in the whole film, it's really the production staff as an extra, whoever. So like the doctors and the nurses, there are interns. The pregnant man is our talent coordinator. So it's really just us. So I appeared in the film out of necessity, but it also felt more, I don't know, it felt right to appear in the film itself because our additional ending, wherein I try to come up with an ending with my editor, is an actual conversation I had with him. It's also my conversation with my actor. So I started to record our conversations. I started to introduce behind the scene footage. I started to ask my editor to record the screen and the timeline of the editing timeline. So when we added that, the scene of me and my editor started to make sense because it's like it leads up to that new ending. So our original ending was just the musical. We didn't have all the like talking about how do we end this film? What do we do? That wasn't in the script. But we only thought of that when we had no ending. And so in the film we're talking about that.
I'm glad you asked about the pregnant man because that is a really funny gag. Is that inspired by media in the Philippines or where did that joke come from?
Well, it's also true that like silly stories get featured in the news all the time. But I think the intention is really like in cinema, anything is possible, and so I wanted to show a pregnant man.
Right. Okay. Let's have another. Oh, we have a question right here.
Yeah, so all the music was really phenomenal, and I wanted to know if all the songs were like authentic from like the time period that you were emulating, or were they created for the movie?
Oh, thank you. Most of the songs are original. There's this one song in the opening it played. It's called Ang Pagbabalik ng Kuwago, which is also the Filipino title of this film. So we used that, and we had a rendition of that song during the last action scene. But everything else, it's original. And I just wanna also acknowledge the presence of our sound designer today, Corinne, over there at the back. I'm very lucky to have such a talented team, and not just in sound and in music, like overall. So yeah, and my direction for Ali, our musical director, is for her to interpret music from that era, not really mimic. I wanted her to make a version of it. So yeah, she listened to a lot of Manila soundtracks and made something out of that.
Mm.
I have two quick questions about the music as well. Towards the end, just before the final end credits, Sheila is seen singing. Is that Sheila's voice?
Yes, it is Sheila's voice.
Okay. And was the music by Ali?
Yes, it's music by Ali.
And my other question is, in I think the first or second action scene, there's great, very 70s sounding like soundtrack music. Was that by Ali or somebody else, or was this your idea? Like make it sound like Dolomite or whatever, or?
It's musically directed by Ali, but she had a band, a really talented band. So when I briefed them, it was the same direction. Like listen to these action film tracks from the 70s and 80s, but do not mimic.
Okay.
Just interpret.
All right.
Make something new. Use new sounds. Use what you're used to using. And yeah, that's what they came up with, and I'm really happy, and I was also surprised because it's a different sound. It wasn't what I was expecting, but I really like it, and I think it works.
Oh, she knocked it out of the park, if you ask me.
Yeah.
We got some hands right here, right there, in the middle.
Awesome.
Yeah, you, sir.
Yeah. Hi. So first of all, thanks so much for bringing the movie. It was really exciting to see it. I've been waiting for it for a while. My friends in the Philippines got to see it way ahead, and it was, I've been looking forward to it. And also wanted to say that your mention of Fernando Poe Jr. is super exciting. In the last years of his life, he started going to the barber that I went to when I was a kid. So apparently I've met him, and I don't remember. But my question for you was, Leonor, especially as kind of the central character, doesn't really have that much dialogue or that much that she directly says to other people in the film. Her dialogue's more minimal than other characters in the movie. So I was wondering, but her character still comes out really strongly. So I was wondering, how do you make sure that a character who is often watching people and really kind of observing her own work play out, how does that kind of character who doesn't speak so much how do you make sure that, I don't know, that her character still comes across, and that her personality still comes across?
How do I make sure? I'm not sure until someone notices that it works. So thank you, I guess it worked. Maybe it's also a focus on her nuances, on her actions, on how she responds to other characters in the scene, on how she responds to her environment. I actively did not want her to be speaking a lot in the action world. I wanted her to really be closely observing the world around her, because I mean, to be in a world you've written, I think it's more of opening your eyes and seeing everything more than like talking. So thank you for that observation, and it's really the nuances that Sheila actually mostly provided herself. Thank you.
I think we have a question over here as well. Yes, so you right there.
Yeah,
Yes.
I wanted to know what the reception was back home in the Philippines with the movie, and also in like other parts of maybe Asia or Southeast Asia, if you've had a chance to screen there.
Alright, the reception in the Philippines. Our first screening was great. It was the opening film of the biggest independent film festival in the Philippines. It was a free screening. It was the first screening in that cinema after 2 years. And so naturally, it was full of joy. It was a cheerful, well-attended screening. And our next screenings, I would say, did well, but it faded after probably the first 6 screenings. So I probably ran out of friends and relatives to invite. And so our recent screenings last month, we started to like cancel screenings because we realized that we didn't really reach strangers, reach the cinema viewing audience. And I understand it's not because of not just the film, but it's also an economic problem. It's also, you know, to get to watch a film, you need to get to so much to travel, to buy an expensive ticket. So I understand that it's a luxury as well. So it's hard. But in Asia, I realized also, well, it also depends on the festival. So our next best screening was in Indonesia. And apparently, we were talking about this.
Right.
They have a great viewing culture in Indonesia right now, and it's even better than before the pandemic. But it also depends, like where in Indonesia, because we screened in Jakarta and it did well. We screened in Bali and it was barely attended. So
Oh no.
yeah, it really depends. And we already know that this is not a film that's easy to sell or to invite people to. But we're happy that it's finally finding its small audience, I'd say.
We already have some hands. There's one right over there, right in the corner.
Hi, I want to say it was fantastic. Thank you for having us all. It was such a great experience to see the movie. I have another question about communication in the film and dialogue, or I guess lack of dialogue. So leading up to the hospital scene where Leonor is finally seen on the television screen in the waiting room and she's found. Is there a particular significance to the muteness of the child who sees her and points her out? Like, is there a was this one of your daydreams specifically, or does it have a personal significance to you?
Thank you. So why was Leonor's friend in the DVD stall mute? It's based on a mute child I've seen the past 8 years. So I would often write in coffee shops in our village, and I would often see this mute young boy hang around the place where I would write. And I saw him grow through the years, and I just wanted to turn him into a character in the film, and so it's that.
Did he sell DVDs?
No, he was there to assist the parking, but he's really the inspiration for that character.
And has he seen the film?
Oh no.
Oh.
No, good idea.
There was another question, another hand right in that area. I think yes.
Okay, cool. You mentioned that this is an extra personal movie, and I'm wondering that, like, what's your motivation at the beginning, or where did you guys start?
Oh no. the big question, motivation. Okay, honestly, my first motivation was the fact that I wanted to make a film. I was a fresh graduate. I was an eager young filmmaker who wanted to put all my ideas in one script. So the first version of Leonor was that. But when I started to think deeper, why do I want to make this film? For who? What's the point? Why drag all your friends to this giant catastrophe? Why spend all your money? And I realized I like the process of making a film. I really enjoy, it's not suffering, I really enjoy doing research, I enjoy writing, I enjoy talking to people, I enjoy having others read my script, I enjoy digging deep into action films or into filmmaking. I enjoy just learning, and suddenly life makes more sense when I try to make a film. And so I realized that I did make Leonor because I just enjoy the process of filmmaking. And there's also joy when you work with people you trust and you like. So we had a really fun shoot, I would say. I'm proud of that. Today we were talking about what is the thing you're most proud of, and I realized the thing I'm most proud of is that we had a good time making this film. It was really hard, but I'm sure that most of us enjoyed. I'm not sure with Corinne. We worked remotely for a long time. I'm not sure with the editor. We had 25 versions of the film. But during the production, it was a fun, crazy journey. And the motivation is really to just enjoy the process of filmmaking. And I hope it reflected in the film itself.
How do you feel that you kept the people motivated and the team so loving? And what do you feel was your personal trick on that and your personal touch on that?
I think it's just being conscious of keeping the vibe happy and light. So whenever tension arises, we try to erase the tension. It's really hard, but it's something something that is precious to us. So all of us are consciously trying to make the set happy, and we wanted the set that was humane. I mean, we were shooting long hours, but we tried our best to have good food, have little fun surprises. I even had my birthday on set, and they had a marching band arrive. It was really random. And the ending scene, the musical scene, it was shot in one of the last days of the film, and I think it's the epitome of the joy we felt while making the film. So in that morning, we had a warm-up exercise, and a dance choreographer trained us as a whole production team. So all of us are production people, not dancers, but we felt like a giant Zumba class that morning. And our performance is that bad performance in the end of the film. So, yeah.
Did you know the people already before, or did you acquire them for the shoot, or were you already friends before?
It's a mix. So some of them were old friends, old good friends. Some of them were new friends. The new people, we tried our best to treat as family. And that's something I'm also proud of. Like, we would often hang out as just people, not as co-workers, not as collaborators. We just have drinks, and we genuinely enjoy spending time with each other. So in the Philippines, every time we have screenings, they would come along voluntarily.
So the
For
party.
drinks.
Right here.
I was wondering if you actually had enough resources, what would have been your ending of choice? Because I've invented an ending, and it's my favorite ending, but I want to know yours.
Oh no. I'm happy with how it is, and if I had more resources, I'd pay everyone much more. I think I used my friendship cards, all of them, and I can only use it once, so hopefully not for the next
One more question. I need a hand. Hello? Anybody? Oh, there's a question right there.
I see two though.
Oh, you saw two?
Yeah, we can do two.
All right. You go first.
What is your? We saw so much of the behind the scenes. What is your favorite memory from behind the scenes?
Oh, thank you. Favorite memory? It's definitely the ending musical. It's the strangest shoot day we've ever had. We never imagined we would all dance together in a choreographed musical manner. So yeah, that's the most memorable, and also, how do you describe it? One of the most precious, perhaps, because I think, how I described it earlier, it's the epitome of the joy we had despite all the struggles and obstacles. And the other favorite moment I had was probably during our last day when we said like the final "it's a wrap" thing. People started handing drinks and playing loud music, and we were just hanging on set even if the shoot was over. So instead of feeling tired and wanting to go home, we wanted to spend more time together, and we were there until the sun rose. So
It really comes out. And pick the last person for the question. You saw somebody, right?
Oh.
Yeah. So among all those like very interesting, very impressive things, is there one thing that you came up first that you really wanted to film those? Because I think you have so many like good, great ideas, and is there one that you really want to film at the first place?
Sorry, is there one scene that
The first thing.
You're saying what was the number one idea that you were
Yeah.
dying to film, right?
Yeah.
not the snail? I would say the snail, but let's change the answer this time. It's probably Leonor falling from the sky.
Nice.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Marty. That was great. And you just got nominated for Best International Film with the Indie Spirits Award. Is that right?
Yeah.
Congratulations. Thank you, everybody.